time for another round of coffee. I guess want to see my rooster. See if I have reception here. There's the rooster. They want some more food. There's little Betsy. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't named any of them. They're pretty friendly. Yep. Chickens. If you're gonna homestead, get some chickens. It's definitely a good way to start. Easy. Could make it automated. And eggs. I mean, you could really heal a lot of health conditions just with eggs. I think we tend to complicate things, but just going back to real food. You know, I was for years going my vegan days, the butter, it's called Smart Balance. I was doing, you know, tofurkey Thanksgivings and that whole thing. That wouldn't have ended well if I would have continued, and it wouldn't have ended well for my brain, especially. So yeah, let's make some coffee and keep this going. I actually went live before this about an hour ago with Well Within on Instagram, and that was a really fun chat. Just a good overview. Talked about a lot of different things. Might as well go into depth here on my new machine. Fortunately, this is not an espresso machine. It's actually a coffee machine. There's only coffee buttons, but it's still worth it. Breville, I think this is about $500-600. Should last years. My friend said this lasts for like 7 years plus. It's called a portafilter. Comes with it. You just boom. You'll grind it. Sorry for the noise there. It's the goat. You'd select, okay, it's quite a lot. There we go. So this is fresh ground beans. I'm using Guatemala beans, and you can check, you do the grind size, I have it at 3, grind amount, I have it at the middle notch there. Very easy to use. Usually I'm not one-handed with this thing, and you just pull out the tamper, boom. And then that just, supposedly this sucks too. My friend recommended a better one. It's on the way. And that is it. This thing is not rocket science if you've never used one. And this actually turns like this, but I just turn it to here. And that works. Then the next step, I get my question everything mug and just finish the training here. And today I did this. It was a little too much water, so I'm just going to do this. Do 1. And yeah, no issues yet. I have it set to double. This thing's been a game changer too. It's the Therasage Theraware, I think it's called. And you can just crank out the oxygen there. And that's, so I basically roast the beans. I have the video on that you guys probably saw. Store them in here and then put it in here. And within a week or so, and there's varying opinions on that. You know, some people say it's not until a week that it's good. I don't know. Adam Bergstrom said that the sooner the better, because it's the carbon dioxide or something that's with the freshness. So anyway, coffee lesson. I actually just got this in yesterday, Maui Nui bone broth. I use a local company, but I like to switch it up every once in a while. This is my favorite bone broth. It's quite expensive, but worth it because this is food, right? So some people buy cars and all sorts of toys, and I guess I buy toys, but I like to think they have a purpose. So, you know, there we go. And then here's the there's the coffee. So from here, what I'll do, if I'm gonna do espresso style, which I'm gonna do right now, because I already had a lot of liquids at a steak before this, just pour it into these, and I make a little mess every time. There we go, that's a pretty big mess. And then I'll actually put in, actually I'll put you guys on the tripod here. I like to do just a little intro to these things, so we'll jump into the questions in a second. I just want to do the intro. than the maple syrup. Grab that. Okay, yeah, so I'll share some new stuff that I've been doing. Not too much. I mean, I'm always experimenting with new things. Lately, it's been, oh yeah, I should have showed you that. I just poured in some maple syrup. Just about probably a quarter of the cup here. Lately, I've been experimenting with grounding once again because I have been grounding for many years. It's also called earthing. And it's really helpful for a lot of different things. I used to be in musical theater back in college, and I remember there was a girl in my class that had that I was friends with that had arrhythmias, and I was trying to help her out, and she was like eating McDonald's. I think she got diagnosed with like precancerous stuff, and you know, I was extremely retarded, right? Like nowhere near understanding lipofuscin and the whole picture of what destroys the heart and messes up the heartbeat. Like magnesium controls the heartbeat, but I knew that grounding was involved. So I had an extra grounding sheet, and I was like, here, take this home. She used it for a few days, then brought it back to me, and she's like, I don't know, I didn't feel anything. I'm like, okay, you know, it's like family and friends. You gotta separate, or else you'll go crazy if you try to save someone. I think we've all been there. But for people with irregular heartbeats, earthing / grounding is the key. And of course, there's some context involved, you know, grounding to the third prong in the outlet versus direct rod to earth. Of course, that'll make a difference. I always prefer direct rod to earth. But if you guys follow my Instagram, I don't know how many of you are on there. I posted that I am releasing, maybe I didn't post it. Well, I'll announce it here first. I'm releasing grounding sheets within the next week or two. And I've been buying different ones over the past few weeks. Okay, I should back up here. Why did I get back into grounding? It's because I've been sleeping on magnets for many years. And you guys may have heard my interview with Dr. Dean Bonley of the Magnetico Sleep Pad. And basically it's either 5, 10, or 20 Gauss of static, unipolar, unidirectional magnetic field. So there's a lot of specifics there. It's not just a Niken pad, right? Like I used to work at Sport Chalet, and they sold the little Niken bracelets, Nikken. This is a step up from that, but it's still pretty harsh. So about week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I was tracking my sleep. I have the Aura Ring, which, you know, people question the accuracy, but I was just seeing like my sleep has not been as good as it could be. Just at an intuition level, I wasn't seeing it trending up. So I'm looking at everything, and you know, my nutrition's dialed, my stress is dialed, everything's dialed. And I started to look at my bed, and I was like, okay, all these fans and stuff, and all these electronics, and all this noise pollution. It's like I live in the woods. Why am I packing my bedroom full of electronics? That was my first thought. So I looked at my 3 Uller pads that are like the chili pad. And I think they have, you know, if you're in Vegas, if you're in San Diego, it can get pretty miserable there at night. And so, you know, those could be beneficial, running cold water, 55-degree water through your bed pad. And there's different levels. I think that's one of the more cheaper, affordable ones. Even though it seems expensive, there are ones that I looked up, 5 to 6K for like a bed cooling system. Cheers. I'm gonna down this. So I started to question the Magnetico, and it's very helpful for heavy metal detoxification. I've been sleeping on magnets for the last 4 to 5 years. I'd say about 5 years. And I've recommended it to friends, like on Facebook. This one woman reached out and she said I had to return it because I got sick from it just being at my front door. And so I was like, it sounds like you need it, you know? And I think a lot of people are heavy metal poisoned more than they even imagine. You know, it's one of those things. It's like iron. It's like, where is it coming from? It's coming from everywhere, guys, everywhere. And there's, often talk of mercury, and yeah, that's an issue. But how about lead? How about aluminum? These are in a lot of foods, and it's just impossible to avoid. It's one of those things. And so what's called magnetochelation is sleeping on magnets. Now, there's a difference between using that for 1 year, 2 years, and then like I did, 5 years. That's pretty hardcore. And my goal was to increase my lifespan, because that's what they did a study on. They found 2.5 times lifespan increase just by exposing human tissue cultures to this strong magnetic field. And basically what I understand about it is that the Earth's magnetic field has weakened. So in prehistoric times, however old you believe the Earth is, back in the day, we used to have a stronger magnetic field. And that was, north of 300 Gauss. And now it's a fact that the Earth's magnetic field is 0.5 Gauss. But I'm starting to question now whether that narrative's true, because I know there's a lot of trickery around human history, not only from a war perspective, but from a anthropological fossil perspective, and like just the whole deal, right? There's obviously manipulation at every level of what we've been told, right? And that goes even as like deep as the Earth's magnetic field, which is a pretty important thing. Like, it's pretty important to know, like, if the Earth's magnetic field used to be stronger or if it's always been this way. I want to know that, right? So I promise there will be a practical takeaway to this little story. So one day, I just had the intuition. I'm like, I'm getting these off my bed. And I immediately took my 3 Uller pads off. So I'm doing actually 4 espresso shots here. So I took my 3 Uller units out of my bedroom. I had a weighted blanket, and I have a king-size bed. So I had 1 Uller on each side. And the way that my Swiss Dream bed is designed is if you get a king bed, it's not very conducive to cuddling, because the middle part, if you lie on the middle part, right, like say your partner's on one side and then you're cuddling, you're in the middle, that's going to screw your back. So I'm a back sleeper, and back or side sleepers, I don't think it's good to sleep on your stomach, from what I understand. But this bed is designed so that there's wooden slats. And if the reception was good, like at my new house, it's going to be better, so I can do more tours. In this house, it sucks. So if I go in a different room, I'll lose you. So I'm not going to show you the wooden slats, but it's on my website. You can look at their website. And it's basically, I went to the Bulletproof conference, the same exact bed, $12,000, $13,000, $14,000. Okay, this bed, $2,000. Okay, $2,000 to $3,000. So the markup with a lot of things is insane. And everyone has to make money. I truly believe that. It's, if you're supporting people that genuinely want to help people, yeah, give them money, right? But in the red light industry, a company that starts with J, a lot of industry, it's like the markup's like not 5, it's like 10, it's like 15. It's insane. Same thing for beds. So this is the best bed in the world, just flat out. It is, no argument. It's a Swiss design, but they're built in Canada. And it's kind of like an acupuncture treatment. Not acupuncture, chiropractic treatment when you sleep in this bed, because of the wooden slat design and how they bend and the way it's designed. There's no metal. So I was like, what's the deal? I'm measuring my aura ring and the heart rate variability and the whole thing. And I'm like, what's going on here? I'm on the best bed in the world and I'm not getting optimal sleep. I have the humidifier going. So I started to change things. 200 pounds of magnets. I drug it out to my shop here, and that was a workout. And then I started to get back into grounding or earthing, which is the work of Clint Ober. I've been listening to him for about 10 years. Unfortunately, he got hit by the Matrix from what it sounds like. You just hear it. Hopefully I can help him out. But yeah, he's been educating on how basically the Earth is a unlimited source of free electrons, and the basic idea that you can't have inflammation when you're grounded. And it's one thing to be barefoot outside or to have grounded sandals or earth runners or whatever. It's a whole nother animal to be grounded while you sleep. That is the thing to prioritize. That is most important, because it's when we sleep that our brain has these astrocyte cells that convert chemical energy to electrical energy, and they send down different resonant frequencies at different frequencies to different tissues to heal different areas. And it's an electrical process. And so my intuition, my experience with the Magnetico, it's good for magnetochulation, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years. But when you go over that threshold and you only sleep on the magnets for years, I mean, I'm talking every day, it could tire the system, similar to using PEMF too much. So this sent me down a really wild rabbit hole the last 2 weeks. I found a guy named Jerry Jacobson that's since passed. He was interviewed on One Radio Network by Patrick Timpone. It was a 2-hour interview on SoundCloud that was really excellent on magnetism. And they get pretty esoteric. He's talking about love and the universe and stuff. But the magnetic part, I mean, that's all good. But the magnetic part and natural magnetism and what our body is designed to receive, especially for 8 or 10 hours, 8, 9, 10 hours while you sleep, is not a pulsed, unnatural field. Like a Earth Pulse or whatever. I forget the brands. People sleep on PEMF things. You don't want to sleep on them. You have an injury, you have melanoma, skin cancer, you have a back injury, you have pain. Yes, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy will knock out your pain quickly, better than any drug, better than any supplement, better than any therapy. It will eliminate your pain. And it'll also charge up your cells. But you don't want to do that all night long. So, long story short, that's a bit. I'm announcing grounding sheets, and these are fitted sheets, whether you have a queen bed, a twin, or a king bed, it will fit over your bed, that are silver impregnated, and you can plug it into the third prong, or you could spend $30 or whatever it's going to be for the grounding. I'm going to sell the grounding thing. The grounding rod. I don't care if you're in an apartment. You poke a hole in the screen and you put that out the window. Hammer it in the dirt. Ideally, I mean, and I'm really into the education about this because it's really important. And there's so many things you can do with this. You need to keep that ground moist. So, if that's pouring water over it every few days outside, if it rains frequently. Here there's snow melt, which I don't have to do anything. That's perfect. And you don't have to get neurotic about it. I mean, it's going to be conductive no matter what. But if it's wet, then it conducts better. And by it, I mean this rod that you jam in the earth that's about this long. And what it's doing is the electrons are actually going into your body from the earth to neutralize free radicals. And there's been studies on lowering cortisol, on increasing heart rate variability. So many things it does, but it's a regulation thing. Just the first night that I put lodestones on the grid, the silver grid, the first 2 hours I kept waking up. I never do that, ever, years. I just kept waking up like every 10 minutes. So I went through a heavy reset. That's just from plugging my body into the earth. So, again, context, depending on where you live, if you're in an apartment, if you're in a house, if you're in a city, if you're in the woods like me, so many variables. But I think what it comes down to is, for years, before the Magnetico, my first apartment in Pacific Beach, California, I threw the grounding rod out my window. It was my first apartment by myself, second story. And I knocked on the guy's door, and I walked through his apartment to his backyard, and I hammered that thing in. And I believe I did sleep better, even with Wi-Fi and all that, because people get crazy and say, oh, the silver's conducting the Wi-Fi and it's an antenna and blah, blah, blah. Look, if it is an antenna, it's going to that silver and then it's going into the earth because it's grounded. So it's something that's, there's a lot of education about it. But I think it's just something you feel, and sleep is just something I'm so passionate about. It's so important. Most people are not sleeping well because, of many factors. I have an antenna on my roof. That's the only reason I could do this live here. And I turn that off at night. So when I turn that off, I don't have cell reception. Am I good? No. I mean, there's still waves around me. There's satellites and stuff. So what I do is I have the Blue Shield and the Somavedic. And, if you were a purist, which I don't know how healthy it is to be a purist, then you would do a kill switch. You would have nothing plugged in. You would do a Faraday cage over you, whether that's the no choice close or some type of canopy, whatever. And then you would have a grounding sheet under you, right? And maybe that's optimal for some people. I don't know. For me, it's just enough to turn off, especially, the basic thing, takeaway for you, if you have Wi-Fi, turn that thing off at night, unplug it, right? You can get a Zap thing on Amazon. It's like $20. You just plug, it goes into the wall and you plug your router into that. You have a remote by your bedside. You just press off. That way you don't have to bend down every day and it's a little routine, right? Everyone could grab a little remote by their bedside and hit off. And just by doing that little minute action, your sleep will go through the roof in a good way. So there's my little rant on grounding. I'm so passionate about magnetism, and I just think there's so much BS about there. And now there's scare stuff going on about silver clothing and, having silver against your clothes, you're going to get argyria. And there's always this fear thing. And I just say, okay, let's stop, take a step back, stay grounded, literally, and, question these things. It's like wearing silver against your skin, right? If that goes in your body, then what's going to happen? Well, it depends on your selenium levels, because people forget that selenium and silver are on a seesaw, right? Like I talk about the seesaws a lot, selenium and silver. So where are you getting your selenium? Are you drinking goat's milk? I have a doe that I milk here every day. Goat's milk is one of the highest sources of selenium. It also has quite a bit of retinol, right? It also has bioavailable copper. So I can pretty much live on my doe's milk. And it also has lactoferrin, which helps with iron overload. But the point is, you get certain things in place and you don't have to worry so much. You don't have to be orthorexic even about what you're putting on your skin. Don't put on, aluminum sunscreen and, the obvious things, or aluminum deodorant, toxic sunscreen. There's obvious things like that, but just don't stress out about the little stuff, right? With EMFs, it's the same thing. It's like, you're getting cooked as we speak. You're getting fried as we speak. As you watch me, you're getting microwaved. Is it something to freak out about? No. You get a EMF beanie. You get an EMF hat. Get an EMF jacket. Boxer briefs like I'm wearing now. Pants. Whatever. It's something you feel, especially if you live in a city or an apartment, or if you travel a lot. This is so foundational to protect, especially your torso, your vital, your organs from EMFs. The questions that I get every day, it's like, Matt, I'm dealing with this and this and this, and why would this happen, and why would this happen, this symptom, and that, I don't know, but you're probably getting slammed by EMFs, right? I'd check your water supply. I'd check your relationship with light. I'd check your relationship with magnetism, right? EMFs, harmful EMFs, will change the pH of your saliva, and that's just one aspect of EMFs. It's called dirty electricity. It will change the pH of your saliva. So is it the gluten that is the problem? Is it the dairy that's the problem? Or is it your pH of your saliva is different because you're getting fried? $30 dirty electricity filter. Not to say that's going to bring to zero, but if I stay in a hotel, which is like once every 5 years, you bet I have a bag full of dirty electricity filters. If it's a Hilton, I'm plugging in like 15, 20 of those guys. I'm going to hit every outlet in that freaking apartment or that little hotel room. You know, so getting some of these things in place, it's like really important. And our body is electrical first, chemical second. So, you know, what prevents your appliances from frying out? It's the ground. It's that third prong on there. All right, that's it. I think that was a pretty long rant on grounding. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. But just don't overlook it. Don't overlook your sleep. Most likely you're not getting optimal sleep, probably because you're not grounded. And, you know, grounding into the third prong, if that's all you can do, great. If you can do the ground rod into the ground, and then this will be out in about probably a week. So it's going to be pretty quick. And I'm going to make them affordable, nothing crazy. And yeah, absolutely change your life to sleep grounded. Okay, let's get into the questions here. I just dumped my coffee outside. Let's see here. What do you recommend for any skin condition, rash, eczema? Which are your products? And you know the root of skin conditions could be EMF exposure, really. I noticed when I was living in North County, Escondido, it was mid-2018, my eczema came back. I was on my arms, and I had not had eczema in years. There was a cell tower, probably 2-minute drive down the street from me. And granted, I was under a lot of stress there, you know, just living with someone that was not a good person. But my eczema came back, right? And that's, skin conditions are stress-induced, right? And you can say that about a lot of diseases, a lot of chronic conditions. But the liver is really the organ of detoxification. And if that cannot function, then the toxins will go out of the skin, whatever it is. So what's really important for the liver? Retinol. You know, I talk a lot about other things like vitamin E, vitamin K2, choline, sugar, animal protein. But the one that's often missing is retinol, and that's vitamin A. And similar to learning about copper, you know, you have copper toxicity. What's that Matt Blackburn guy saying? You're copper deficient. No, everyone's copper toxic. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Now, I do know what I'm talking about because we're not talking about copper. We're talking about ceruloplasmin. Ceruloplasmin is loaded with 8 copper atoms. That process is facilitated by an enzyme in whole food vitamin C called tyrosinase. There's also magnesium, retinol, there's a lot of cofactors involved, but there's a protein your liver makes called ceruloplasmin. Ceruloplasmin is required for cytochrome C oxidase to work. In the third cytochrome, your mitochondria, it's a respiratory protein to generate energy. It's also needed to utilize oxygen. It's needed to convert thyroid hormones, so many other things. It's like a foundational piece. So I really like Morley, a return guest to my podcast, that is the mineral man, but he says there's only 3 that matter, right? There's 84 plus minerals. There's only 3 that matter: magnesium, copper, and iron. And you'll notice with Convid 1984, everyone's focusing on zinc and ascorbic acid and secosteroid hormone D, otherwise known as D3 cholecalciferol. They'll say supplement D3, supplement ascorbic acid, supplement zinc. No, no, do not. I'm not a doctor, it's not medical advice, but I would not, because if you supplement those 3, that will hemorrhage, deplete, drain gut your copper stores and your retinol and your potassium and your magnesium. It's like a domino effect. And so, let me show you these actually. They're actually really... Yesterday I was at the inspection at my new house, and pretty much 4 to 5 hours of being out. And so I just planned ahead. I brought my 2 gummy squares. I wish I had more. I would have brought more. I need to make them again. But I brought my gummy squares. I brought some beef jerky. I brought local dried fruit, like fruit roll-up type thing, but just only dried fruit that someone makes locally. And I brought these beef liver chips. This one's with onion and collagen from Carnivore Aurelius. Sent me some of these to try, and they're pretty good. And actually, when I got home, I had some with guacamole, and that was cool. It's like upgraded chips. So beef liver, that's a source of retinol and copper. You could do desiccated. The real thing is best. Or you could do it all. That's what I do. Because it's really long-winded answer. But if you have skin issues, you are retinol deficient. You go to the dermatologist, you go to the doctor, you say, Doc, I have acne. What are they going to give you? Retin-A, Accutane, synthetic retinol. I know because I was there. I was pizza face in high school. I always looked down, didn't make eye contact, right? Really ruined my self-esteem. Didn't want to go on dates, didn't want to, the whole thing. It really like slowed down my progression in life, having skin issues, because it changed how I interacted with people, right? That self-confidence. So this is a physical thing, but it's also a emotional, mental thing, right? So getting that retinol in will change all of that. And not to say you can't be confident in how you are right now, because you can, but why not do it all at the same time? And so, good sources of retinol, beef liver, basically animal foods. But liver is very concentrated in retinol. You could say butter, eggs, ghee, I believe, milk, as in dairy. But essentially, I would say hammer the beef liver. If you have the pills, don't underdose, right? If it's ancestral supplements, it's like 6 capsules, right? If you have acne, I'd say like twice a day. That's what I would do, if you can afford it. If it's a monetary thing, 6 a day, okay, that's fine. If it's Satchery, which I like it better, I think it smells better, then 4 twice a day, maybe even 4, times 4, maybe 16 a day. You could experiment, right? But that beef liver with the retinol and the copper and the B vitamins, it's such a powerhouse. And you don't have to do beef liver. Like I buy bison liver, there's elk liver, try different ones, but just get it in your body, right? Like I wasn't raised with liver, so it's something new to me. So I'm not just like machismo, like, oh, I'm going to prove I'm a man and just enjoy it and chew it. And, however you can get it in, doesn't matter. No one cares, right? So it's pill, the chips, this is why I talk about chips, or the real thing, or all of them, right? That's what I do. But don't forget about retinol. It's also needed to make your sex hormones. Pregnenolone, progesterone, DHEA, you need retinol. It's so foundational. So don't supplement it though, because you can supplement retinol palmitate. There's only specific things that I talk about that I sell with Mitolife that I recommend, and isolated nutrients can be helpful, right? K27 can be helpful. Vitamin E can be helpful, but most people are supplementing, like I mentioned before, the wrong isolated things. That's where we get into trouble. Okay, let me take, because I'm talking a lot. I don't want to lose my voice here. Actually, let me do a spray of this Protect stuff. Okay, there we go. day of nonstop talking, so I'm going to do one of these probably every half hour. Let's see. But yeah, which of your products, Zachary? I didn't mention any of them. So vitamin E and Shilajit would probably be the two, but plus the retinol piece. For my wife, she's asking what's the best way to raise progesterone levels, and also can overtraining lower progesterone levels. I would say lowering stress. I believe Jessica Ash and I went deep into this on the Mitolife radio episode, talking about progesterone. Listen to those two episodes, Lauren De La Cruz and Jessica Ash on Mitolife radio. I think I interviewed both of them twice. So there's 4 shows. And I believe they went pretty in depth on progesterone with those. If I remember correctly, just lowering stress, supporting the metabolism. You know, estrogen is the counter to progesterone. So vitamin E, you know, in its effects of blocking estrogen can be helpful. Because if you block excess estrogen, then progesterone can rise. You know, there's different schools of thought on progesterone supplementation. I think rubbing it on the skin is going to be a safer way to go than orally taking it. I've done both myself. There's a great company called Ona's Naturals, and she makes progesterone cream. A lot of people in the metabolic health community will rub it on their skin, and then I think even put like saran wrap or something to like keep it there. They get pretty crazy. I don't know. I've definitely felt some anti-stress effects, because progesterone for men can be beneficial as well, to even make testosterone, to raise testosterone. But to do it in a natural way, you know, just Kate Deering's book, How to Heal Your Metabolism, just working on that level, taking vitamin E every day, you know, other estrogen kind of blockers, and that should rise. Hope that answers the question. I'm not like a progesterone expert. Would you say soda magnetic pulsar is great for healing from total knee replacement, trying to do everything to help my mother? Yeah, Mitch, if there's inflammation there or healing that has to be done, I would say, I mean, that's definitely the most affordable PEMF unit that I'm aware of. You know, it's like under $500. Sometimes you can even find them on eBay used. We're talking about the SOTA magnetic pulsar. It's like a lollipop paddle design. The paddle's like maybe the size of my fist. And you can put it up, you know, to your mouth for dental, put on your brain for depression or whatever. PEMF has been used for that. Or for recovering from surgery. And so, yeah, she could absolutely hold it there, you know, 20 minutes twice a day. The next step up after the SOTA magnetic pulsar would be, what's it called? Sentient Light. Losing track of all the names of all these devices. I think that's like $3K though. That's like the next most affordable one. And then after that, you're looking at pretty pricey. If you can find a Pulse Centers location or a health club, if you're in a big city, it's there, Pulse Centers. And that's called an impulse system of PEMF. And I mean, that's so strong. I mean, they use it at horse equestrian centers. It'll literally jolt your body. And so, you know, you can put 2 paddles, one on each side of the knee. That would be the penultimate to rapidly heal from that. Lucy says, what protocol would you recommend for food poisoning? So like an immediate help for food poisoning, I have a lot of experience with this. Eating expired corn tortillas. that was not a fun night by myself. That was years ago, but I did not know what I know now. Knowing what I know now, I would, if I had food poisoning, I would eat a raw carrot. I would take activated charcoal if I had it. You know, they both act similarly, but the fiber in the carrot is like an antibiotic. You know, it acts like charcoal. So the raw carrot, the charcoal, and then, you know, 2 to 4, probably 4 of my Mitolife probiotic, which helps in the immediate for any kind of, you know, endotoxin issue, which there is with food poisoning. So yeah, basically those 3 things. You know, Shilajit could not hurt as well. And that's about it. Just ride it out at that point. But that should help speed it up. Kendi, first live Q&A. Awesome. I sleep on the floor because of hip pain. Moved into other bedroom with computer in it. Can that be some of the cause of bad hip pain? It got worse after changing rooms. I'm full on CLF. Nothing is moving. Yeah, I mean, if you can turn that computer off, like shut it down and turn it off, then that would be good. If that's not a possibility, then go to my website, matt-blackburn.com, and get the dirty electricity filter. $30. I would get like 2 to 3 of them and put them in that room. Like where you sleep, you really want to dial that in, right? Because you're there for 7, 8, 9 hours. So, you know, 2 to 3, I don't have them here because I don't need them. So the dirty electricity that you get is largely determined by the grid that you're on. So what's connected, right? And you can measure it. The meter is like $100, which is useful. But ideally you measure that because that would get to the root. You measure it in what's called GS units, Graham-Stetzer units. I had a whole podcast on this with the inventor of that technology. And since then, other companies have swooped in and copied it and made it their own and stuff. But they're like the OG original people. It's called the Stetzerizer filter. And, you know, like $30 each. And you just plug it into the outlet. And it's a filter that will actually lower your dirty electricity exposure. And if you don't want to lose an outlet, then you get a power strip. And a power strip, I mean, that's dirty electricity in a nutshell. So, you know, we all know, you know, computers, some people have 2 power strips, their feet's there, you know, they usually have a belly, they can't lose weight. It's like, duh. The EMFs make you fat. That's what they do. And especially the dirty electricity. So on the end of the power strip, you plug in the filter, the dirty electricity filter. And that way you don't lose, you know, outlets if you need them. But I would do that. That's my answer. Just plug in 2 to 3 of those, and that should do it for your sleep. If you switch rooms and you're not sleeping as well. What are your medicine cabinet must-haves for cold, flu, fever reducer, pain relief? Pain relief, it's going to be dissolve it all, for sure. Systemic enzymes for pain relief is the main thing. I'm actually going to post pretty soon the North American Urban Spice. They have a pain spray. It's like camphor oil. It's pretty strong. So that's a good you know, it's something good to have. And for fever reduction, I mean, aspirin's good to have. I would say just Gericare, you know, avoid Bayer. But Gericare aspirin is really beneficial, not just for fever, but for just total bodily function. It's very safe, especially if you have K2 coming in. But even if you don't, it's very helpful. And it doesn't take much. So I think Gericare aspirin is a good thing to keep in the medicine cabinet. And then the last thing I would say is just wild oregano. So, where is it? Well, they have a million products, but, you know, Oregarest was one of my favorites. And yeah, this is just for respiratory: sage, cumin, cinnamon oil, and ginger powder, and then wild oregano. What else? Looking at my cabinet up here to see if anything jumps out at me. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, I would say too, with the food poisoning, going back, this is really good to have just in general. Mountain Detox from Shen Blossom. If I had food poisoning, I would definitely take a dose of this. And it tastes, pretty bitter, but actually I'm almost to the end. Pretty good stuff. It's like 30 herbs: aged garlic, clove, mimosa bark, green walnut, Japanese pumpkin seed and skin. Tons of stuff in there. I was thinking about, before I started recording here, the raw meat, Agenus vonderplanet's carnivore trend cult that's going on right now. And I think parasites are going to make a resurgence. Not like the idea of it, but the reality of it. Because all these people eating tons of raw oysters and not caring, tons of raw organ meats and not caring, not thinking parasites are even remotely an issue. I saw a white worm crawling out of Lyra's butt like a month and a half ago. It was like this long, crawling out of her anus. Sorry if you're eating right now, but parasites are real. And, some people would make the argument, yeah, Matt, I know they're symbiotes, right? They actually help. Questionable. And to what degree do they help, right? Yeah, parasites are a real deal. So you want to have some type of a strategy for dealing with it. And not just like wormwood and the normal things that people use. Starting from scratch, so on a budget, any way to get pure water to make magnesium bicarbonate without a good purifier to start. Was drinking artesian water for years. Now I don't know what water to drink. Here, one second. I'm gonna grab my stool. Okay, just so I can be a little more comfortable here, I'm gonna take my office stool. There we go. Okay, that's better. So, pure water without a good purifier. Yeah, I would find a water store. If you can't find that, then find a water dispenser at your health food store and fill up there, 5-gallon jugs. That's what I always recommend to people. And just try to avoid like the regular grocery store filters, and try to find, alkaline, schmalkaline, whatever buzzwords they put on there. It'll probably be better at your health food store than it will at like a Vons or whatever big chain store like that. Do you think higher dose infrared blanket is worth it to buy, or is it better to wait and save for better option? I haven't looked at that one, Lucy. I've heard of that brand, infrared blanket. Yeah, I mean, what's the one on my website? I have a jade kind of mat on my website. I'm blanking on the name of the company right now. Maybe it'll come to me. But, there's the Biomat, which is like MLM company. And then there's this other one, Healthy Line. That's the name of the company, Healthy Line. And my discount code's Blackburn on that website. That's probably going to be more affordable. I think their prices are pretty reasonable. SodaStream is not available. Any comparable product? I did a bit of research, recommendations. I would just look up Carbonator, on Amazon or whatever, or go to your, local store. Try to avoid Walmart and just look for a carbonator. It's just a very simple design. You're just putting CO2 into cold water. So it doesn't have to be a certain brand or anything. Let's see. Nervous to start because nothing moving in my body, lots of money on expensive garbage. I know water is crucial and magnesium bicarb. For someone extremely full, what is minimum I should do? Everything causes stress. Work on the metabolism. If everything's causing stress, that's a sign that your metabolism has some work. You have to do some work on your metabolism. So if you haven't bought Kate Deering's book, I would do that, called How to Heal Your Metabolism. Make sure that you're implementing all of that. If you're eating salt, which you should be, make sure you change from Himalayan or Celtic to white salt. And it could be Morton's, it could be Mordens on the D, it could be Icelandic from Crucial 4. Basically just white salt, because the color is heavy metal toxicity. A lot of people that are chronically stressed, they're going to have tanked electrolytes. So we often hear magnesium goes, but also potassium and chloride goes under stress, those three. So there's something called the adrenal cocktail, which is pretty much orange juice, coconut water, and sea salt. Jigsaw Health sells pills called the adrenal cocktail, which you take 6 of them. Unfortunately, they use Redmond salt, which has some iron in it. I don't know. I think you'll live, if that's convenient for you. I think it's fine, short term, not for years and years and years. Or you can just get some coconut water. I've been getting back on, raw coconut water. And even though there's no coconuts around here, if I'm working and I'm sweating, unloading hay bales like I was the other day, then, I'll just down a coconut water and I feel great immediately. If I was tired. On my website, I actually added the little By Ocean mineral shots, and that's purified seawater. Company's been around for like 100 years, and it's basically microfiltered seawater from deep under the ocean. A lot of people heard of Kintone. This is pretty much the same thing, but like a different brand. And I'll do usually 2 to 3 of those throughout the day. Great source of chloride, but also potassium and other minerals. I would say if you're not drinking orange juice, if you don't fresh squeeze, then organic cold pressed. It's like forget the brand that I buy, Evolution or something. Just integrate those things and see if that helps your stress. Do another spray of this. It's so true about trying to save your family, friends. They all think I'm going crazy talking PUFA toxicity. Yeah, you'll get that. You just have to lead by example. Mike says, hey, for someone who is on the full CLF protocol and feeling amazing, finally, what are some cool gadgets to add in for additional support? I've been thinking about the AquaCure and TheraAir. That's awesome. That's great. That's awesome, Mike. Well, yeah, the AquaCure would definitely be the next step for sure. If we're talking between those two, the TheraAir is cool. It's a little bit more of an investment. The AquaCure I have right here, if you have good water and you run it through this, that'll just take you to the next level. Other cool gadgets I'm trying to think. The MRET actually I'm uploading might already be up, but this deal on the Academy, molecular resonance effect technology, that's kind of my routine. So I vortex it, run it through the AquaCure, and then through that. And if you want, through the Infopathy. The Infopathy is a really affordable thing. If you guys haven't tried it, you know, $150 for the glowing IC pad. And that's something that I feel when I use it, especially on store-bought liquids, you know, whether it's juices or whatever it is, just to kind of reset, you know, whatever frequencies are being held in those coherent domains to get esoteric. But yeah, I would say the AquaCure is a good investment. Oh, he says, I have the MRET actually, a pristine filter, and run it through the MRET. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that would be, I mean, you know, the Kangen people, they're always on me, and they're like, Matt just hasn't looked into it, right? And it's like, you know, because they're just MLM, right? They're like, they need to be in a Mitolife affiliate. It's a win-win for everybody. There's no, you know, crazy markup like there is in a multi-level marketing company. But I like the AquaCure because it's pretty much a hydrogen ionizer, but affordable, you know, versus like 4 or 5K or whatever. But it also puts in the oxygen, and it also has that cool frequency feature. So I'm working on getting George on the podcast because I really want to go into this. I like that you can like breathe the hydrogen too at the same time, because I have a 7% hydrogen inhaler in my office, and that thing's pricey. And maybe the maintenance is easier than this because I don't have to keep adding lye solution to this. Like the hydrogen inhaler, I don't have to do any of that. But, you know, the time you spend on the maintenance, you save in money. Because the hydrogen inhaler would be like 4K more than the AquaCure. But yeah, I have this in my kitchen, and you know, this is the little water catch, and you could just hook something here, and the cannula, the nasal cannula, is super long. So, you know, if you're in your kitchen cooking or making food, or you're just hanging out reading, you could be breathing hydrogen while you're making water. That's a pretty cool feature, and I've used that many different ways for different contexts. Hydrogen gas inhalation, and yeah, it definitely has a strong effect, especially if your brain is fatigued, you're tired, you know, oxidative stress going on. Yeah, I mean, really good if you're traveling. Hydrogen neutralizes the free radicals that are created from harmful EMF exposure, namely peroxynitrite and the hydroxyl radical, both of which are really stressful to the system. And so it's pretty, I mean, you could drink the hydrogen gas with the tablets, and I've done that for years, and that's beneficial. But this is just like, you know, you're making it in the machine, so it's just, and inhaling it's always stronger than, to me. Let's see here. Angelia, sorry. I think I'll move the computer. Kids use Wi-Fi for phones. Gonna go to a cleaner room for a bit. I'm sure EMF is not okay. I was fasting on the reg. I thought that may have caused, yeah, that will cause a lot of pain for sure. Holly says, can you advise on chronic, oh, it's Angie, by the way, whoops. Can you advise on chronic tinnitus and protocol for fibromyalgia, brain fog, and extreme? Okay, let's hit these one at a time. So obviously there's a connection between all of these, right? You mentioned chronic tinnitus, fibromyalgia, brain fog, and extreme muscle skeletal pain. So you guys might not know this, but the biggest store of copper, like the most abundant area in your body for copper, you want to take a guess? Skeletal muscle. Your muscles. have the most copper. And is that because they require the most energy? Could be. So if you're having muscle fatigue, muscle pain, I believe that's copper deficiency caused by iron overload. Quick swig here. So I don't know if you've gotten the Request a Test, Holly, the full Monty iron panel. And there's ways to read that, so it's not just getting the test. Obviously, you need to interpret it, but there's certain things that will jump out at you, like your RBC magnesium level. Like if you're dealing with all that stuff, I mean, someone with fibromyalgia, which is a fibrosis disease, fibrin, scar tissue, that's just a sign that your body's been under extreme oxidative stress for a very long time. And so, you know, it's irritation leads to inflammation, leads to scar tissue formation, fibrosis, fibrin, fibromyalgia. Right? So my neighbor, when I moved here, had fibromyalgia, and his hands would always cramp up, and he would be in pain a lot walking up the stairs. And with me working with him, I just talked to him the other day. He said 90% of his 90% of his pain's gone, and I've been keeping him stocked on Dissolve-It-All, K2. He's not on the magnesium yet, which is amazing. I did all that without giving him magnesium. So just imagine, all right, if he stacked all of that plus I got him on magnesium, what would happen then? He'd probably be 100% healed. So, you know, oxidative stress drains your magnesium. And tinnitus is a magnesium deficiency, from what I understand. So it's not just a matter of what supplement do I take and how much do I take and how long do I take it. It's a matter of looking at your burn rate and seeing, you know, how to lower that before. I mean, you can start adding it in, but just know that it's going to be going, you know, you're just like barely scratching the surface, throwing 3 pills of magnesium in your body a day. It's just like barely making a dent at all. So you guys probably saw I got a sensory deprivation float tank. It's like 1,200 pounds of magnesium salt. I believe it's like 1,000 pounds of sulfate and then like 200 pounds of chloride. No, I think I only put like 40 pounds of chloride in there, because it's the sulfate, I believe, that mostly makes you float. Or there's a reason why we couldn't put all chloride. Could have been cost too, but I feel the difference. That's actually the episode that's dropping tomorrow, Mitolife radio episode on floating. And I think there have been studies. It's also called rest therapy. Can't remember what that acronym stands for. Yeah, I don't know. But the studies are under rest therapy. But for fibromyalgia, amazing results. So it's not just like a mental, emotional benefit for floating in a float tank. You're getting a huge dose of magnesium. And the benefit of getting it transdermal is you're bypassing the gut, and so it just goes right in. And I've changed my mind the last few months about magnesium supplementation, just looking at red blood cell magnesium tests in people, seeing what they were doing. And yes, magnesium bicarbonate, the liquid form, is the most natural, and then chloride transdermal. You know, you get sulfate if you go in the ocean. There's magnesium sulfate in the ocean. But when we get beyond those, it's all synthetic land. And again, synthetic is not evil. It's context. So I would just not do liposomal. Liposomal's trash. But, you know, magnesium 3 and 8, malate, taurate, what else? There's all these different forms, right? Glycinate. Those can all work. It's just, you want to combine oral with transdermal, and you don't want to bathe in tap water, right? So obviously you do your best, but I might have to, I think this is a delivery driver, 1 second. Okay, I might have to sign for this one. Just a little intermission, we'll see. So do them both. Do oral and transdermal at the same time. And you'll see your magnesium levels raise, which will allow your body to heal. But at the same time, you should be focusing on the iron problem. So fibromyalgia, a lot of these issues are caused by iron overload. And yes, taking magnesium will help to put the fire out, but the fire will still be being created because you're not taking care of that iron that's stored in the tissues that can't get out because you're copper deficient. So donating blood, doing a lot of these things will help. 1 second. How's it going? How's it going, brother? No, it's okay. Thanks, you too. Oh, okay. Funny enough, talking about PEMF, that was actually the last. That was actually the last of my my PEMF device because I didn't get the. There's all these accessories that come with it, and there's actually, I guess I could do a live unboxing. No, you guys wouldn't care about that. But there's paddles and stuff. There's like rings and paddles they include. And the cool thing about the accessories is you can like sandwich the head. You know, I would say not all night long once again, but you could you know, you have elbow injury, you sandwich the elbow. You know, the gut, you know, if you're having gastrointestinal issues. PEMF, I mean, and sorry, I'll get back on track in a second, but it has validity. You know, a lot of these treatments have validity. And they're not just like biohacking, right? Because people, you know, give it a lot of flack because there's all these people saying, you know, these devices are a cure-all, and they're not. They're adjuncts, they're supplemental, just like my Mitolife supplements. It's like you're on a vegan diet, you know, like you're on a raw vegan diet and you're taking Mitolife supplements. It's like, okay, like you'll see some benefit, but you start eating animal foods, eating dairy, and you add in the Mitolife supplements. It's the same with these devices, right? Like I just got a sauna that I talked about at the start, and it's like, that's so overlooked. Sweating. I mean, that's a great way to dump plastics, heavy metals, radiation, even iron. I would just listen to, if you guys haven't heard of Extreme Health Radio, that's my favorite podcast. Well, I guess Rewilding Humanity, my friend John, has a good podcast as well. Both of those are the only ones I listen to pretty much. And Patrick Timpone, occasionally One Radio Network. But Extreme Health Radio, that's an awesome show. They just had a recent episode with Morley, and Justin asked Morley if sweating could get rid of iron. And they shared a crazy story. I think it was Justin shared the story of someone sweating in a sauna and the towel was actually brown, and they didn't crap themselves, right? It was like iron coming out of their skin. And Morley said it's not the same as, you know, it's not as strong as donating, you know, giving 500 milliliters of blood. There's a good amount of iron in that blood, in the hemoglobin, right, that you're donating. You're dumping iron, like directly. And that could be a stress to the body. But a less stressful way, a less invasive way, and what I'm kind of experimenting with, I mean, last year, you know, was it year before, 2019, in Southern California, when I was still living down there, I went hard on the sauna. Because I told you, I was taking vitamin E, I was breaking out. I was like, wow, I haven't had zits on my face in years. What's going on? Hour a day, sometimes 90 minutes in a day in the sauna. And as long as I was getting the minerals back in, which I wasn't overdoing it, right? Because I was doing orange juice and Shilajit, of course, and I was getting the minerals back in. But, especially you mentioned fibromyalgia, chronic pain. It's like you should be sweating in a far infrared sauna regularly. It does so much. Jennifer says, love the updated YouTube sauna video. Yeah, a lot of the Academy videos, I'm just like, okay, it's getting to the last minute. I'm just going to turn the camera on and just talk. I constantly run out of ideas of stuff to make videos on, but I guess I just want to give you guys value. And so I'm trying to make them like 20 to 30 minutes long, but I might just start making, 5 to 10 minute quick ones. And you guys might like that, right? Less of a time commitment. I don't know. But, yeah, I'll probably make one on some of my snacks soon, like my go-to snacks, just because, I'm always short on time and I'm like looking for easy, quick things. You guys probably like that, what I do just for quick meals. So, okay, let's go back here. I need to catch up on questions. Take another swig, keep my throat hydrated. Yeah, so Holly, just in summary, it sounds like you have a lot going on. I would say either listen to every single one of my podcasts with Morley Robbins and binge watch him on Extreme Health Radio and on YouTube. Just hours and hours and hours and hours of Morley, because what he talks about is what you're dealing with specifically. If you don't want to do that, pay the money at 123 rcp.123 rcp123.org, and that'll take you to the rootcauseprotocol.com and work with a practitioner there, and you have iron overload. From what you're telling me, it's iron overload. You can do it yourself if you want for free. Just listen to my podcast and implement. But if you want to have guidance, I would work with one of them. And of course, they're going to recommend things that I don't recommend, which is fine. We're both aware of that. You don't have to message me about it. But we do agree against vitamin D supplementation and, supplementing calcium and all these things. What are your thoughts on metformin and rapamycin for anti-aging purposes? Daniel, that's a good question. I think that's coming from the Steven Sinclair crew, like the resveratrol guy. And that's coming from like the fasting, sirtuin perspective, SIRT1 and SIRT2 genes. And the basic idea that we want to, activate them, which in reality we'll want to actually suppress them. So yeah, that's all I have to say on that. Basically, I haven't looked too much into it, but I believe the metformin thing is based on the premise that sugar equals bad. And that's not what I believe. I don't think they're necessary or helpful. Just curious, why is aspirin better or safer with K2 coming in, prevents bleeding risk? Yep. Yeah, because aspirin will cause internal bleeding. Does that mean it's evil? No. Want to get rid of iron? Could do bloodletting. We can go to battle with swords, knife fight. A little harsh. Right? How about just take some aspirin, acetyl salicylic acid, and a little bit of intestinal bleeding? Does that mean that aspirin's super toxic? Well, are leeches toxic? No. It's just like phlebotomy. You're just doing it yourself. That freaks someone out. Aspirin's optional. I have a podcast episode called Ancestral Aspirin and Fireweed Tea with Ben Belty. And that episode is underappreciated. Ben's a wealth of knowledge. He's the founder of Wild Food Warehouse, the wild rice company, and foraging, hunting guy, which is the world that I'm planning on going into this next year. And aspirin, we used to get that compound more in the wild game meats, but the willow tree has been wiped out, which was white willow bark is the source of aspirin, the active compound acetyl salicylic acid. And it has a lot of effects. Decreases prostaglandin synthesis. It decreases free fatty acids. It protects from the negative effects of lipid peroxidation. Like I said, it helps with iron overload. It increases cellular respiration. So many things. And again, this is synthetic world. So some people get afraid. Like, oh, it's not from nature. Nature didn't make it. I'm not going to take it. It's like, oh, everything is from nature, right? You can't escape that. So it's like, methylene blue or whatever. It's like, it's still, yeah, it's like, it's isolated, but it's still from nature. Everything's from nature. I have a cupboard full of supplements, powders. Does sea moss cause more pain? Because the iron can't take much of that either, stress. So I haven't, since watching your videos, unsure what is bioavailable. Yeah, I don't understand the sea moss thing. I think that's a Dr. Sebi thing. I'm not a fan. I would say bin it, throw it in the trash can. Are there any precautions to take with grounding in the city and wearing shoes like earth runners in the city? Yeah, Jennifer, that is a great question. So I'm going to be putting out a lot of info on this because it's just something that I don't think anyone's experimented as heavily with this as I have. Living in the city, I was like, screw it, let's just experiment. And I wasn't sharing information publicly really at that point. I was just like experientially diving in with this whole magnetism city living thing. And I would say it's worth it. To give you the short answer, yes. I actually threw away my earth runners. They were getting nasty. And they actually sell like a brush and a pressure nozzle you can buy that I just purchased on their website. They're on my site, recommended products. And I believe those are the best grounding shoes you can buy. It's good to have like some, I forget the brand, but they make sandals that are grounded. And I use those in the summer for around the house. Now a little less so that I'm on like a farm, and there's some crazy bugs here. So whatever. I would say the earth runners are the most functional. If you're traversing a forest, earth runners are ideal. Just, watch out for fire ants and stuff. Because I've experienced that. It's not fun climbing on your sandals and biting your feet. You could rig up any shoe to be grounded. And there's Earthling 3.0 straps you can use with wool socks and perspiration. You are still grounded. So that's an option if for whatever reason you can't have your feet exposed. But getting back to your question, I think in the city there will be times where you're going to be on non-conductive surfaces. So in the city, you're walking through stores and onto wooden floors, which is not conductive. Cement is conductive to some degree. Obviously dirt, grass, but if the floor is painted, there's so many, there's so many scenarios, right? Your feet's going to walk on a ton of different surfaces if you're in the city. And my point is, you're not always going to be grounded, even if you're wearing grounded shoes, because you're in different, going to different places, different stores, whatever. You're jumping in your car. But if that's the case, and you're wearing grounded shoes, whenever you step on a conductive surface, right, asphalt's another one that's not conductive, right, a parking lot or whatever. But in between, when you hit a conductive surface, you're going to discharge all that positive charge that you've been building up from driving and from walking on non-conductive surfaces. So I think it's worth it. I guess where I'm at now with that city grounding thing is that you just want to make sure that, as I've been talking about this whole live, you're working on your iron thing, the iron overload, because iron makes you an antenna for EMFs. That's the most important thing to know. And that's why I'm like crazy about Shilajit. You know, it's because this chelates iron. It's so foundational. It's like iron is feeding pathogens. It's making you an antenna for the cell towers. It is the root cause of it's complexing with PUFAs to make lipofuscin, to inhibit autophagy. There's so many issues with it. And it drains your magnesium, which protects you from the harmful effects of EMF. Martin Paul has talked about, there's tons of YouTube videos. I still have to delve into a lot of his videos because it's very scientific, but he does highlight the calcium ion channel opening, the voltage gated calcium channels. Those open when you're in a harmful EMF situation, and calcium floods into the cell. That's a sign of stress, but also iron will flood in. So the magnesium, your MAG-RBC, if you can keep that level strong, then I believe that, you know, especially grounding in the city is fine. And I think it's better than not being grounded. You know, I guess Blue Shield, every time I leave the house, I have my Blue Shield mobile, and just a little quick side note, you guys might not know, but that's not a standalone protection thing. That's made for going between protected zones. They say it on their site. So the protected zones are where you have a plug-in, you know, a $200 plug-in, or the Cube, or the Ultra. You know, that is really what you want in your house, your apartment, or whatever. And then when you leave, you have the little mobile. And so between all that, you know, if you want to go crazy, you can get a Somavedic. There's like the Green Medic Ultra is probably the one to start with. It's like $700 or something. A little more like esoteric in how it works. It's just running electricity through crystals, but it's something that I feel. I have 3 of them here at my place. Probably overkill with where I'm at, but you know, I'm overkill with everything. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at with it. I mean, between all that stuff, you're pretty protected. I mean, if you want to go all the way, you know, like I did in my last live, that, you know, Hello Mortals outfit with a no choice, I really feel that. And it's something you feel. I mean, even if you just get, like, Blue Shield sells a baseball cap, you know, not weird looking tinfoil. It's silver embedded baseball cap. I mean, the EMF's hitting your dome, hitting your brain. I mean, that's why everyone's so messed up. That's why everyone's like delusions of grandeur and depressed and anxious and fighting each other, and we're all like aggressive, and it's all these really throw off our neurotransmitter balance. And so if I'm in the city for an extended period of time, I wear a Blue Shield baseball cap, or even companies make beanies now. If you want to go crazy, do the no choice and you zip it all up, although you can't read and it's kind of harder to see. So anyway, super long-winded answer, but yeah, like I said, just the last 2 weeks I've been obsessed with magnetism and grounding. Obsessed. I just don't think a lot of people are talking about it in this way, like connecting all these different areas. Let's see. Okay, I need to answer these quicker because this is taking a while to get through these. Do another spray of the Protect. How do you determine a good infrared light to a useless one? I bought one, but I'm not convinced. Heat comes out of it and doesn't look like the ones I've seen you post about. Do you need glasses? Yeah, Holly, so maybe I'll post the interview that I listened to the Academy, because it was really good. It's a biohacker guy, Alex Fergus. I've met the guy, pretty nice guy. He used to be a Juve promoter, and now he promotes other red lights. But he interviewed, as I mentioned, the founder of the sauna. It's like an hour and a half. And I was really impressed with Kevin's brain. I've talked with him on the phone, really smart guy. And they talked about infrared light and these 250 watt heat lamps. You know, that's where I started, right? I was renting an RV in Chula Vista, $300 a month in the back yard in a ghetto for a year. And I built from Home Depot stuff, PVC frame, painter's canvas tarp, and 4 250 watt heat lamps, basically drilled with the Dremel 4 holes, just like Sauna Space does, but I built it for like $300 instead of like thousands on a wooden board. And I would sit in there for hours a day. I think my record was like 7-8 hours in front of that thing, because I'd been light deficient my whole life, right? Video games, right? I played outside in the pool, chlorinated pool, and badminton, but I was getting hammered with UV. My whole childhood, I got sunburned. So, my rooster. So these infrared lights, it's near infrared and mid infrared. And that's what Kevin went into in the interview. It's about 10% near infrared and about 60 to 70% mid infrared. So just like UV, there's UVA, there's UVB, there's UVC. Within infrared, there's near, mid, and far. So, a lot of people will try to combine, full spectrum sauna. It's like more is better, do it all at once. I've been there. I still get in those modes, and I'm like, okay, Matt, slow down. Slow down. If you're having that thought, you are going too fast. Because people will try to put a red light in their sauna, and they're too far away from it, so they're not getting the benefit. So there's two different animals. There's sweating in a far infrared sauna, and there's red light therapy. You don't combine the two. It's not going to work. Unless you want to spend 5-10K, and I think there's like stand-up things you can get. I don't think it's worth it. Plus, it just doesn't sound comfortable. I mean, the time is different. That's the main thing. A Gemba red light you stand in front of for, at 6 inches for like 10 minutes. Even 5 minutes has a huge benefit. Even 2 minutes has a huge benefit. But it's really that 5 to 10 minutes. It's not long. Just once a day. With the sauna, that far infrared, these waves penetrate deeper into the tissue, like 6 inches deep into the tissue, and that will vibrate your water in your body and make you sweat. And it's the far infrared that actually creates exclusion zone water in your body, in your cells, around your cells. And that easy water, that gel-like, battery-like water, is what makes you healthy. It's what allows you to hold a charge. It's what allows you to properly detoxify, especially combined with the CLF protocol. So, the relaxed sauna is awesome, because people are like, oh, you stop promoting that? No, it's still awesome, but I like having room to move around. And if you're in an apartment, the tent sauna is great. It's portable. If you're a vagabond, if you're always on the move, wanderlust, whatever term they use now, great. I'm not that guy. I'm a homebody. So I create my home base and I stay. And for that situation, for a home base, you want a wooden sauna. And it's about the same price. I mean, you're going to spend, about $2,000, $2 to $3,000, depending on the size. And it'll last for years and years and years. And that's basically the difference. So it's the time requirement. They do different things. The red light therapy, you're more acting on the mitochondria for energy production. And you're fixing the engines of your cells, right? There's a couple hundred mitochondria per cell. The cardiac cell has like 10,000 mitochondria per cell. Liver has, I believe, 5,000 per cell. Most of the mitochondria are in the reproductive organs because you're creating life. And hitting those different cells with red light therapy devices, as I said, you're fixing the engine. You're fine-tuning your engine. But with the far infrared, you're just in there to sweat. And so there's that detoxification quality, but there's also that charging quality. It's a different kind of charging from the light devices, the red light devices. So ideally you do both, right? If you want to say which one's better, I don't want to answer that question because I think they're both equally important. And you say, what? I live in Texas, I live in Arizona. Can I just go outside and sweat? Yeah, it's just you're going to get hit with UV unless you can, sweat in the shade, if that's possible. I guess if you're in the Mojave Desert or something, I don't know. But that's where the benefit of these devices come in, is because you can really segment and target without overdosing on ultraviolet light, which will create photo damage. And you can even pre-dose, a lot of people don't know this, with red light before you out in the sun. That's one of the benefits of having a red light therapy device. Like if you're going to go out with family and friends, you're going to the zoo, you're going to the beach, wherever you're going, and you're going to be exposed to sunlight all day long. First thing in the morning, you want to dose heavy with red light. You'll notice you don't burn because it's protective against radiation, either before or after, but preferably before you want to do it. Let's see here. Okay, I need to do less long-winded answers here. Oh, where are we? Okay. And no, Holly, you don't need glasses unless you're using a UV light, in my opinion. What strategies would you recommend for dealing with parasites? So I'm going to create an Academy video on this, just my basic parasite protocol. I made one on tobacco, cigars, which you don't have to do, right? But tobacco, clean tobacco is one of my strategies. And then also these two products from Shen Blossom. This is a resin called Aka Hinoki, and this is the Mountain Detox. And this one tastes like turpentine. It's actually, probably take some right now, it's actually good for the throat. And you just start with 1 drop a day. That's all that's required. And I used to take turpentine. It tastes exactly the same. Maybe it is. No, I'm kidding. There's 3 or 4 different resins in here. Yeah, it says take 1 drop 1 times daily, breathe deeply, drink more water than you used to, increase over time to 2 to 3 drops a day, never exceed 6 to 7 drops per day. So it's very concentrated. This is the first bottle I bought. Still about halfway full. So that's the basic protocol for that. I'd say if you just had those two, that would be pretty good. I think that's really all that you really need. And then just make sure that you're eating adequate protein to keep your stomach acid on point. Okay, let's see. Drink Mate instead of Soda Stream. American business made in USA. Adam, thank you. Never heard of that one. Do you know what can be the cause of easy bruising? I'd say K deficiency, K2 deficiency. What do you think the ideal iron saturation should be? I was listening to your episode with Morley. His website says 25 to 30, but I think he said closer to 20 for longevity is ideal. Yep. Yeah, I think the last test I got, I was at like 34 or something. But that was right when I was starting to introduce beef liver pretty much daily. So I'm overdue for a test. I've just been so busy trying to, balance life and everything I have going on, Mitolife. So yeah, I believe what you said is correct. Yeah, closer to 20 is ideal. I don't think it's lower the better, because obviously iron's required, and I think people might misinterpret sometimes what I say. It's like, oh, iron's evil, right? It's the villain. It can be, But it's required, it's like the waiter for oxygen, right? It carries oxygen and hemoglobin, so we obviously need it. And it's like, less is not better, but there's definitely an ideal range. And yeah, I would say around 20% saturation is perfect. Let's see. Your opinion on chewing capsules after your latest episode with Adam, is it just the gel caps that he was talking about, or of all capsules that he suggested chew? Yeah, it's a good question, because powder wouldn't be very enjoyable to chew. Probably gel caps. I've bitten into my PUFA Protect, and I found the flavor is pretty neutral in that product. Yeah, I think I've thought about making, liquid droppers, but I've since changed my mind on that, because the benefit of a capsule is they're encapsulated, so they're protected from oxygen. Versus with the liquid supplement, like a dropper, I mean, oxygen's going to get in there, and even if it's vitamin E, which is protective, I don't know. I think capsules are ideal. But yeah, I haven't felt too much of a difference doing it that way versus just swallowing them whole. So I don't know. He's pretty anti-supplement though. I mean, he supports me, but he just is a food guy, which is fine, Hey Matt, with all the androgen promoting substances you ingest, have you had any signs of androgenic alopecia? I've not. No. I mean, I often say that, I'm, in a unique situation out here. It's pretty extreme weather, pretty cold. So, I do a lot of these yang things. Plus, I just create a lot of content and talk a lot and create a lot. So I need more yang things, elk antler, oysters, to support that. And also just copper. I mean, it really comes down to bioavailable copper, because that is required to generate energy to make sufficient ATP. That's for me the bottom line, whether it's elk velvet antler or oysters or beef liver. It's not so much yang as it is copper. So yeah, to answer your question, no, I haven't. Any recommendations for someone with Crohn's disease? Raw egg yolks, I've heard, are very beneficial. My friend Raw Matt recommends that, even though he's, fruitarian. Yeah, that and dissolve it all would be very helpful. Adam says Robert Cassar is looking to get on some podcast shows. I should get him on. That would be really fun. Holly said you mentioned how Kangen water isn't the best and spoke about another ionizer. Yeah, it's called AquaCure. It's on my website. I haven't heard of Alka Viva. How to get rid of years of pharma medication, IV infusions out of my body. I would use Shilajit personally. Shilajit. I would do 500 to 1,000 milligrams a day if it was me. Do you know much about sleep apnea, causes and treatment? I would look at mouth taping. That is very beneficial, just to, stop mouth breathing while you sleep. I have an episode on that with Somnifix. So if you've never heard of mouth taping, I would definitely look into that. It's like training wheels for your breath while you sleep. Suggestion on how to stop waking up in the middle of the night. Every night I wake up at least twice. Yeah, Daniel, I would say mouth taping. Look at that. Maybe change when you're eating. Like if you are not eating anything, 2-3 hours before bed, try having ice cream. Try various different amounts of ice cream before bed. Try 2 scoops, try 5 scoops, try 8 scoops. Experiment with your sugar, because if a person has been under chronic stress for a while, then they lose their ability to store glycogen in the liver, and that is oftentimes why people have nightmares or they wake up at night. Not to say it's the only cause of nightmares, but it's one cause. So yeah, having sugar before bed might be the way to go. Which PEMF device do you recommend? For affordability, it's going to be the SOTA magnetic pulsar. if you can get the next step up from that, it would be the Sentient Light. If you guys have ever heard of Amp Coil, that's the one I used to recommend. I sold it once I learned that they stole that technology from Larry Langdon over at Sentient Light PEMF. And then the next step up from that is called Pulse Centers. And they make like 3 different models. I think the home unit's like maybe their base model is like 10K or something like that. And then it just goes up for the next 2 models. But that is the best one, the Pulse Centers. If you can find someone that has that to use it, I would say go in for a treatment, like an hour. Mackenzie says, I'm turning 30 this summer. I already have beautiful white, not gray strands coming in at my roots. Which Mitolife supplements should I slam, and anything else to know? Yeah, so vitamin C, whole food C, and vitamin E. You know, these are often just known as antioxidants, right? Oxidative stress is caused by rust, which is caused by iron, right? So iron, oxidation, oxidative stress, antioxidants, right? They never made those connections for us, right? So I'm doing that now. So iron overload is going to burn through your protective nutrients. Those protective nutrients are going to be your magnesium, well, bioavailable copper, right? Because your body uses that to generate energy, but also whole food vitamin C and vitamin E. So basically everyone's requirements right now for vitamin C, vitamin E, and magnesium are higher than they've ever been because of the extreme oxidative stress that we're under. And it's not just, you know, internet trolls and traffic and EMFs and blue light and 5G towers, and you know, it's everything combined. But you could say acid rain, NPK fertilizer, iron overload, you know, aluminum everywhere. It's all of it, and it's all compounding to make us experience more stress in a day than our ancestors, our great-great-great-grandparents experienced in their entire lifetimes. So, you know, that's where this whole ancestral living thing kind of falls apart. You know, because Matt, you're promoting white sugar. You're a shill. You're a charlatan. What are you doing promoting white sugar? It's poison. Okay, get out of here, because you're promoting a lifestyle that was back in the day before cell towers, before Elon Musk, before, you know, all this stuff that we're dealing with today, pre-industrial revolution. It's a different world back then. Totally different world with way less stress. We have an insane amount of stressors on us right now. It doesn't mean that we can't buffer it. It's just the way that people are recommending, right? It's like liposomal glutathione, right? I mean, Quicksilver Scientific. I mean, all these companies that are pushing these toxic products that are just like, you're just wasting your money, right? It's Lyra just making her appearance. So yeah, supplementing the right things to deal with the stressors and eating the right foods is really what it comes down to. Okay, I'm catching up here slowly. So yeah, gray hairs, you know, who had a post on that recently? It was either Innate Functional Nutrition or Josh Rubin. I saw a post on gray hairs, but it's really caused by that retinol copper deficiency from the iron overload. That's what it comes down to. Can you improve brain trauma on holistic foods and supplements, PTSD, disassociation, depression? 1000%. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you know, a lot of that's caused by EMFs, especially the depression component. And it does help to have, you know, a good relationship, you know, someone that you could trust and confide in and have that commitment to and stuff. That's just having that support system, just that foundation. That's why, people think, oh, Matt left Christianity, now he's just, going Burning Man style or whatever. It's like, no, I am still very passionate about the family structure. And it's obvious that that's under attack, right? With just what's being thrown at us. I don't believe you need religion for that structure. I think you need religion for that commitment aspect to it and that protective loyalty aspect to it. But having, there's so many aspects to that whole emotional part, and there's so much that happens with face-to-face human interaction. So I'd say, Holly, just look at that, take inventory. A lot of people are in unhappy marriages or relationships. I'd say just figure that out, because you're going to plateau with your health unless you do that, like, for sure. So figure that out, whether it's leaving or fixing it. Got to do one or the other, or else you're not going to heal. People's brains are not firing on all cylinders right now. No one's playing with a full deck of cards. That's obvious. I'd say myself included, right? We're all in the same boat, but the animal foods help, and the minerals help, and taking a balanced approach helps, because extremism causes brain damage, in my opinion. Dio says, I remember you grounded your car on YouTube. I don't think it's worth it now with the information you said about grounding over EMF cities. Yeah, Dio, it might be. I don't know, because I think it depends. Like, I'm pretty out far from the city, so I'm considering doing it again. The biggest thing with grounding your car is you don't want to do it in the back, because every time in a parking lot at Home Depot or Target or Walmart or whatever, someone say, hey, you have something hanging on the back of your car, and I'd have to say thank you, because I don't want to get into it, right? Because they don't care. So if you're going to ground your car, do it in the center of the car so no one can see it. That's what I've learned in my years of doing that. But yeah, I think it's context. If you're in the center of LA, I don't know if you want to ground your car, probably not. Yes, CMOS is Dr. Sebi, so the same for bladderwhack and burdock root. Thoughts on herbal powders? Are these in 2 isolated forms? Have chaga also, causes stress. Burdock's cool. North American Herb and Spice. Not Dr. Cowan's powders has burdock powder. I also like their root medley powder. But yeah, I would say get off the Dr. Sebi stuff. He was selling liquid iron. It's like, that's all you need to know. Have you heard of Dissolvedol causing marijuana retox? I've had experiences with it causing retox for days. Had no idea THC could linger in the body that long. Not complaining, it's helped me a lot. I've not heard of that. That is fascinating. But yeah, I know THC is stored in the tissues for quite a while. So that is interesting. Yeah, I guess if you're breaking down the scar tissue where it's stored, and it's being able to be liberated into the system, I would just back off on the dosage maybe of the systemic enzymes. Is the iron overload along with the EMFs in the bedroom also adding to pain? Yes, is your answer. Can sciatica alone cause this kind of pain? I don't think alone. No, it's going to be a combination. How many MRET water pitchers do you go through daily? I assume 1 to 2, and for a last step in water. So no, I probably one a day. Probably no more than 1. For last step in water, can we spike it with some homemade magnesium? Yep, absolutely, Mike. You can do that. I did that for years. Please post a video of how you built your budget infrared sauna. It's basically just PVC elbows and pipes. I forget the schedule size I used for the PVC, but I mean, I just built it on the floor of Home Depot with a saw. I don't know if that was legal, but you know, even if you just bought long pipes of PVC and the elbows, you pretty much just need to draw it out. It's not rocket science. I just made basically a frame, right? And again, I don't know if it's, you're not really gonna, I sweat in that thing, kind of, but there's not a lot of far infrared in the heat lamps. So it's more of a mid-infrared light. You know, like I said, you get some near, which you can OD on. Not a lot of far, it's mostly mid-infrared. Dio says, plus your skin reflects most of the sunlight versus light devices for super saturation. Good point. Have you noticed any benefits by adding Hertz in the float tank? What's the device called? Yeah, so this is something I've been using for many years. It's called the NF3 Flanagan Neurophone. You could just say Neurophone NF3. And pretty basic device. It's just an ultrasonic generator. And yeah, it's just a little 9-volt battery in here. I use a rechargeable, and then you could actually adjust the voltage here from 5 to 20 volts. And I, of course, have it cranked to 20 volts. And I forget how many hours this battery lasts, but I just recharge it every so often so it never runs out. And yeah, this is called pink noise ultrasound. So it's different from white noise. It doesn't tire the system. And I just switch it on, and there's an in and out jack here. And so with the in, you could actually listen to music with ultrasound. So you could like plug in an audio jack to your Spotify or whatever, do a subliminal messages. I did that for years when I was living with my parents, subliminal messages. And yeah, just listen to that through your forehead. And I think it worked, because I used to hate money. You know, I watched Zeitgeist and I watched all these documentaries, and I was just like, you know, oh, people with money are ruining the world. And I was the brokest I've ever been because I hated money. I was, you know, it's the root of all evil. You know, I saw all these people in the health field just feeding off others, and I saw that years ago, and I was like, wow. And yeah, I reprogrammed my money beliefs with this thing. I mean, it wasn't the only thing I did, but I think a year straight, every night while I slept, just about, I was listening to different subliminal messages through my forehead. And that's real. But yeah, now I don't use that for this. I don't use this for that purpose. I just put this into the water in my sensory deprivation float tank. And so John C. Lilly was really one of the first guys to experiment with sensory deprivation float tanks with dolphins. So he actually built a tank above a pool of dolphins, and he would, you know, take different mind-altering substances and go in the sensory deprivation tank for hours and hours and hours and hours and try to communicate with the dolphins below. So it's interesting, because I've always been fascinated with dolphins, and so is Flanagan. And, you know, they have huge brains. Some people say they're the most intelligent being on this planet, smarter than humans. And there's been a lot of military projects over the years to convert dolphin squeaks to basically translate dolphin squeaks ultrasound into English, into a language. And I believe they were successful at some point, and then they got shut down because I guess the dolphins were telling them information that challenged national security. So there's some documentaries on that. I think there was one called The Woman Who Talked with Dolphins. But anyway, yeah, this is basically dolphin frequencies. That's why he designed the device, to kind of mimic that. But it's not necessary, you know. But if you have that and you go to a sensory deprivation tank, it'd be fun to try to plug it in, and you don't hear anything. You know, you don't hear like it's silent. But yeah, I guess to finish on this, because you guys are going to think I'm crazy, some of you. Dr. Gerald Pollack, University of Washington, the fourth phase of water guy. He wrote a book where for me, one of the highlights was talking about easy water, which is the fourth phase, solid, liquid, gas, and there's gel water, easy water. And he was saying the two main ways to make it is with infrared light and with ultrasound. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, ultrasound. I think I have access to that. So yeah, that exclusion zone water thing, it's pretty foundational for life. I mean, water is like the medium through which life happens. It's light, water, and magnetism working together in a symphony. But yeah, if I've noticed any benefits by adding it into the float tank, I would say better memory, but then again, I'm doing a lot of things, so I don't know. But my memory seems to be slightly better. Any safe things, how to release headache. Magnesium. I'd say keep magnesium on hand, especially liquid magnesium bicarbonate. I like pristine hydro. Ideally, make it yourself. You can make it yourself with Crucial 4 mag bicarb powder, cold carbonated water. You add it, shake it, knock out the headache. A headache is from a magnesium deficiency. What would you do for fungus, specifically toenail fungus that appears to be systemic? I've had it for 10 years. It's gotten better, but nothing, including oregano oil, has completely ridded me of it. I would ask, did you use the oregano oil internally? If so, I would try it external. And by targeting that area external, you could have an effect. And not just the oregano oil, they have a product called Nail It, nail-it, and that's made for topical use. So I believe that's the name. I would use that right on the area. Also, you can go to my YouTube and go way back. I think the video is still up. It's a vodka foot soak with Costco. Well, it could be Costco if you're near one. It's Costco Kirkland Signature 6 times distilled vodka. The big one. I have one upstairs, the big 1 liter thing. Very useful to have. And you get 2 Ziploc bags, like 2-gallon Ziploc bags. I know, plastic, whatever, don't worry about it. This is a treatment. And I guess you could do a Pyrex glass thing if you want to get crazy, but this is practical because it has to be practical for you to do it, right? So 2 Ziploc 2-gallon bags, 6 times distilled vodka. And I highlight this in the video. I go through the amounts and all that, but you don't really have to. You can intuitively just add to the bags. So you pour in some vodka to where it covers your feet, and then you mix in baking soda. I do like maybe half a cup per bag. Activated charcoal, maybe like 2 to 3 tablespoons per bag, per foot. I used to do MSM powder. I don't think that's too necessary, but really the baking soda will have a huge effect. I used to add in fulvic acid, but now I kind of question that with the Ziploc bag. I mean, even for a short period of time, the reason why I say Ziploc is because the solution will be alkaline, right? Especially if you're starting with reverse osmosis or pristine water or good water. I mean, yeah, experiment with it. I tried all sorts of different variations with it, different solutions, Soleil salt I put in there. But if you go and watch that video, I pretty much make the list of ingredients and the amounts, and you basically rubber band your ankles with those bags on, and you just let it soak for a while. That's basically it. I mean, if you want to, you could probably do it in the bathtub as well. You probably just need a significant amount of vodka, right? I mean, maybe you could add it to the, you know, a little bit of water and kind of do it that way. But I'd say start with practically the Nail It by North American and see if that helps. That resin is powerful. I keep missing the name of the test you mentioned about testing your mineral levels. Oh, it's a Full Monty Iron Panel on requestatest.com. Janelle, Matt, can you share anything you know about MS, multiple sclerosis? Many of the people I know in upstate New York are suffering from MS. Would you recommend dissolve it all for them? Yeah, that would be huge. And people with MS definitely have iron overload. I plan on having an episode on it, like actually next week, I believe I'm having a psoriasis expert on. So I've been meaning to have specific episodes, even though it's all caused by the same thing, right? People want to hear the one condition for whatever reason. So, yeah, my next episode is going to be on psoriasis. I will, if you guys know any like MS experts, especially that understand the mineral piece, I'm sure I could just have a whole Morley episode on it, but I like to have different people on. But yeah, dissolve it all. There's definitely a huge scar tissue thing with MS. And I would bet that everyone with it has severe iron overload. So their saturation's probably, you know, more than 40%. Daniel says, do you suggest buying a neurofeedback device or working with a practitioner? Daniel, I would try it first and see how you feel. Even one session on like Neuroptimal, people have had long-term results. To be honest, I have been slacking on that. I mean, I have so many things to use, but the flotation tank is kind of like its own neurofeedback thing, very balancing. But I've been interested to like do that before the float tank and see what happens, because I'd imagine I'd have a much different experience that way. But yeah, I would say try it first before you invest, because it's a little bit of investment for the Neuroptimal. How many Dissolve It All capsules would you recommend for a pregnant or breastfeeding woman? I heard Lyra, she hasn't made an appearance yet. If it was me or my hypothetical pregnant or breastfeeding wife, I would say, 3 a day. I personally take 6 a day minimum, sometimes more. But yeah, 3 days is plenty. Is there any way to boost a person's IQ using supplements, lifestyle changes, and or diet? I believe so. Yeah. She's like wanting me to give her some food here. Let me release the Kraken. There we go. Uh-oh. Lost connection. Okay, we're back. Yeah, so actually let me grab milk here. So I always have a pre-made goat milk and sugar thing. Gotta stay fueled up. You smell this brain power. So yeah, IQ is not the only measurement of intelligence. Obviously, there's EQ, emotional intelligence, right? There's a lot. But yeah, I'd say Shilajit, if you want to increase your memory and verbal fluidity and all that stuff, you're looking at Shilajit. And then if you want to go crazy, you could do methylene blue, like electroscriptions. I believe sugar in itself is a nootropic IQ booster. Contrary to what you hear, they say, oh, it's going to inflame your brain and it's going to do this and advance glycation and all this stuff. It's all BS. Sugar is the primary fuel for your cells, especially your eyes and your brain, right, which are connected, right? Your nervous system. Sugar feeds it. It's not a stimulant, it's a relaxant. So, you know, Shilajit milk, that's what's traditionally done in the northern parts of India with the children, right? They're on Shilajit milk, super kids with that combo. Why? They have the retinol, they have the copper, sugar, animal protein, Shilajit. It's like, that's why I have goats, right? Stuff went down. I could live on milk and Shilajit. I keep a stockpile of Shilajit. I have my milk. I have the minerals. I have all the nutrients. But yeah, methylene blue, I'm a big fan of. I want to have an episode on it because I think we touched on it during the hyperbaric chamber. I think I'm going to have the Transcriptions founder on, Dr. Ted Azukocho or something. It's hard to pronounce last name. Asian dude, pretty interesting guy. You know, Georgie Dinkoff has talked a lot about methylene blue. It's a Ray Peat thing, the metabolic health community. But I think it's like $30, $27 with my discount code for 16 doses. And so that's like a 2-week supply. You just take 1/4 a day. You know, just put it up here between your cheek and your gum and let it dissolve. If you don't like the flavor, you could swallow it too. Because I know I gave some to my neighbor and he's like, this tastes horrible. I'm like, just swallow it. You'll get the same effect, or you get a similar effect, but it's not going to be as much brain focus because it's going down in your gut. But a lot of different gut issues, methylene blue can help with, especially infections. So just between methylene blue and MCT oil, you know, that's in like PUFA Protect, you could clean your gut with just those two, MCT and methylene blue, because they wipe out different infections. Wow, the sun's out. that's rare. Probably just for a second though. Oyster, recommendations on quantity, how many a day would be good? Yeah, so Jacob, I'd imagine you're talking about the real deal, like whole food, like actual oysters. I'd say like 6 to 12 a week, maybe a dozen a week if you can do that. It's one of those things where I don't think you need to eat it daily, but once a week would be excellent. It's rare that I have access to good oysters here, not that I haven't found a place yet. And so I'm relying only on desiccated oyster, my product that hopefully will be back soon. Been trying to give people updates on that, but I import it from Ireland, and I've been having a lot of issues just importing stuff, I guess because of Convid. So hopefully that'll be back in a few weeks, but yeah, I generally take 4 a day of the desiccated oyster. But yeah, if it's the real thing, I'd say just a dozen a week probably, and then, you know, use your intuition. If you feel like less or more, go for it. The stitched wound cut, your remedy to best healing, to leave it open or cover it. I would use, there's a liquid bandage spray that I use. I forget the brand. I don't even know if I still have it. I think I actually ran out. But that's what I use if I ever get a scrape. Yeah, it's this stuff. So it's Cure, with A, Keri Cure, Natural Seal Liquid Bandage. And yeah, that's basically what I would keep on hand with that. Let's see. I don't know where little Lyra went. She went back to her little sleeping area. And for oysters, when would be the best food to eat it with in a meal? I'd say anytime, you know, with any kind of... So now I'm wondering if you're talking about the pills. If you're talking about the desiccated pills, with a meal, generally what I recommend with any kind of pill, if it's actual oysters, then I'd say whatever. What was the name of the device you held up when you were talking about how you reprogrammed your beliefs about money? Luis, it's on my website actually. If you go to matt-blackburn.com, you'll see it. just look for this. It's like this picture on the, just click products. Like, it's easier to see my site on the desktop. But I think it's like $600 or something like that. But again, I've had this for like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years. It lasts forever. It's never, I mean, unless you like break it, it's going to last forever. Do you know if having high muscle mass requires a higher dose of methylene blue? That's a good question. Probably. For a bigger person, yeah, if someone like doesn't feel it, then I'd say take half. I mean, if it's the Troscriptions one, take half of a troche of the lozenge. You know, I've never gone over 1/4 at a time, but yeah, if someone, you know, is like, I took it and I didn't feel anything at all, then yeah, higher dose it. I've actually been experimenting. Hopefully I could talk about it. Their future product from Troscriptions, and it's an anti-anxiety. It's like CBD, CBG, GABA, and kava. So I've been enjoying that at night. And yeah, I like the Just Blue more than the Blue Canatine, which was their first product, which is like the speedball with like nicotine, caffeine, methylene blue, and hemp extract. I just like the pure methylene blue, but some people think it's too bitter. So I notice if I have it and then I drink milk, the milk tastes different. So, but yeah, I'm probably gonna have some after this because it's very useful if you're just using your brain a lot or you're talking a lot, you're just go, go, go. Those are the days especially that I utilize methylene blue. He didn't feel anything with 1 full troche. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, at that point, I'd look at kind of mineral balance, like there might be something off. Like, I guess some people could just be non-responders, like they're just not sensitive. But I question what his mineral balance is. Yeah, because it should rev up the system, you know, and not like a stimulatory way, but you should feel like a little more switched on in the brain. I live at the sea, so the season started. I talk about the real oysters, but the pill is good for as well. Is caffeine okay for women? Does it disrupt hormones and cycle? I don't believe so. I mean, caffeine's not good for anyone that's not regulating their blood sugar with breakfast, especially. So you went the whole night without fasting. What I used to do, black coffee, and then fast some more till dinner. That is a recipe for disaster. Accelerated aging, accelerated lipofuscin formation, the whole thing, calcification, fibrosis. It's the accelerated path to the grave. So, yeah, if someone's, you know, balancing their meals and not restricting carbs or proteins or fat, saturated fat, then caffeine could be a benefit. Because what does caffeine do? I made a post about this the other day. It increases your metabolism because it goes through your liver glycogen. That's what caffeine does. So you drink coffee and it revs up your metabolism and you burn through glycogen faster. If there's no glycogen there, then you have the adrenal cortisol response, which causes a whole stress cascade, and that has a net effect of suppressing your metabolism. Even though you drank coffee and it should have helped you, it didn't help you because you didn't eat. So that's why a lot of people get the jitters. You know, I keep seeing ads for these boutique coffees, which really, you know, encouraged me to make that post. You know, everyone wants a coffee brand and stuff, and that's all well and good, but you know, when we really get down to it, it's about freshness and it's about the water. It's about fresh, roasted in clean water. And yes, the beans matter, right? And getting it from good farms. Don't like buy Starbucks coffee, obviously. But in order of importance for me, it's like clean water, fresh roasted, and then after that comes the other stuff. But, you know, for some people, it just won't work for them where they're at least in this moment. But maybe later on in their healing journey, they can add it in and they'll find that it's beneficial. And like the amount matters too. So for me, I guess I had 1 cup of coffee because I was interviewed live before this on Instagram by someone, and then at the start of this, I had like 4 espresso shots. So I probably had, you know, 1 espresso shot is 90 milligrams of caffeine. I'm probably close to, you know, 300 to 400 milligrams, I guess 400 milligrams of caffeine. But I had a steak, you know, almost a pound of steak today. I had eggs, I have milk, right? So I'm supporting the system with food, with protein and with sugar, and I actually put white sugar in this goat milk. Really good if you haven't tried it. Just sugared milk. This is actually part of how I healed my metabolism a couple years ago, coming off of the intermittent fasting thing, was just adding sugar to my milk. And super, super good for the system. Just, you know, if you haven't done dairy in a while, just go slow. You know, don't chug this amount all at once. It's like kind of sip it. And if you haven't had dairy for years, I mean, start off with, you know, this much for a week. And then, you know, the next week have a little more. And just, if you feel gassy or bloated, just know that you overdid it. You just had too much too quick. So just be more gradual with it. Is mold toxicity from metabolism? I had an episode on my podcast with PJ Harlow Wellness. She's a mold expert, and she, you know, has people test their home for mold. I think it's called an ERMI test. Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of homes that people buy, I forget the percentage, but it's like half, 50% or so of homes in the US have like black mold, or it's like a crazy statistic. There's some documentaries on it. I absolutely think that mold can be, especially black mold, what's it called? I can't remember the scientific name of it, not a mold expert. That can be a big issue. From my research, this kills not only the mold, but the spores and the mycotoxins. So it'll actually kill everything. And so the Orega spray, you know, people say, oh, it's expensive. Well, you can dilute it. That's what is very concentrated. If I spray this in my car, right after the gas station, and I'm not scared about convid, I don't want flesh-eating bacteria on my hand. So I spray my hand with this after I touch the gas station handle, and I sneeze. It's so strong. And so when I get down to half, I fill it up with water. And when I get down to half again, I fill it up with water again, because it'll still be potent. So yeah, we have things for mold. I also like the hypoallergenic air filters. They have clinical studies showing not only convid, but black mold, because it's shooting out particles, right? It's not sucking them in. The hypoallergenic air filters. This was my first podcast interview, Mitolife Radio, Hypo Air. And the Air Angel I pretty much have in every room. And then the iAdapt, I have a large one in my living room, and I have a small one in my bedroom. And that one does have a HEPA filtration, so it sucks in particles. And what I do is I just take out the catch, the HEPA part, and I just air blow it. I just buy canned air, and I take it outside, and I just blow off the dust, and I put it back in. And that way you pretty much use those filters for years if you maintain it like that. And oregano internally too. Wild oregano P73 will help with black mold illness. Absolutely. And, you know, people might think, you know, oh, Cass Ingram's just a salesman or whatever, you know, because he just raves about oregano. But the studies are there. I've had him on my show several times. I have a bunch of his books. The research behind the effectiveness of truly wild, not greenhouse grown, truly wild Mediterranean oregano is real. And that's why I consume oregano pretty much every day in all of its forms. Like today with my steak, I didn't use Spice Hunter. This is refilled from Greece oregano that I bought. It took like 3 months to get here. And it smells totally different. So much stronger than store-bought. And, you know, the crude herb, the oil, the juice, these are all beneficial to ingest for multiple reasons. Let's see. Is organic store-bought milk sufficient in any way? Yeah, look for non-fortified. Usually it's going to be raw if it's non-fortified. By law, they have to fortify it with D3 or retinol palmitate. You really want to avoid algae oil. That's when the alarm bell started going off for me. It's like ding, ding, ding. Okay, I'm selling algae oil and I'm going to the store and they're force feeding schizochytrium algae oil to humans in Horizon milk, the red cartridge. Ding, ding, ding. And I was like, okay, I got to get out of this industry. Dots connected. I hear Adam Bergstrom, yellow fat disease in the back of my head, and it's all these things. And I realized, like, the things that they're force feeding us, right? Like, there's a reason why vitamin D is not found in breast milk, or it's very low. There's a reason why omega-3 DHA is very low in breast milk. Nature, God, didn't screw up, right? It's not like, oh, you know, it's not in it, so we have to add it. No. If it's not there, it's for a reason. So, yeah, with raw milk, you know, realmilk.com, you might have to go underground, and you could pasteurize it yourself, right? If you're afraid of raw, who cares? Buy it, cook it, right? Heat it up, warm it, whatever you want. Find a way to make it work for you. But if it's raw, generally it's not going to be fortified. Sometimes you can find whole milk that isn't fortified, but usually it's in other states. Other than California. California is the worst. Does it matter what time you take Shilajit? I'd say take it in the morning, because for some people, they get too much energy from it. I can take it right before bed. You just have to experiment. I had mold at home, didn't know it until I worked in an old barn at work. It affected me for months and got a bit better, but not gone. Oregano causes stress. Do I just start with microdose? Yes, I'd start with the microdose. Sulforaphane, I don't know about that. That's a Rhonda Patrick thing. I'm not sold on sulforaphane. I don't think it's... Can the P73 dropper help with systemic candida? Yep, absolutely. That's its main effect. All right, caught up. It's crazy. What are we at? An hour? No, we're over an hour. 2 hours? 143 minutes. Well, should I do an unboxing on the PEMF? I've been having it's my new little routine when I do a live. I have the Therasage mobile sterilization unit on the Ion feature. And I just have that going towards me. And I actually feel it even if I'm just inside, right? Because today I'm just working nonstop. I actually have to record for tomorrow's podcast after this. My poor voice. I'm definitely going to use the sauna. That's another thing. If you have sore throat or you just talk a lot or whatever, the far infrared waves, and I've used this specifically for my throat, very soothing to the throat. I've also found it to be very soothing to my digestion. You just want to make sure that you have your minerals down before you go in the sauna, because otherwise it could be a stress, right? Just like donating blood and yeah, Angel, with everything causing stress, I would say just like figure out, like if everything's stressing you out, then there's an iron overload thing. So before you donate or get a blood test, because that can be an extreme stress. I mean, people faint, they get nauseous just from giving blood. right? Fortify the system first with minerals for weeks or probably months. You know, adrenal cocktail, magnesium, more chloride, more sodium chloride, and then add in that piece. And there's like steps, right? But if everything's every supplement, everything's stress, then that is just a sign that you have tons of iron in your tissues, because that's, iron is the root cause of stress. So, I mean, PUFA just puts that on overdrive. I'm wondering how are so many people genuinely seeming to heal and thrive on medical mediums protocols? Are these people doomed down the line? Luis, I'd say yes. A lot of people are obsessed with short-term results, and they think, their psoriasis goes away, or their EBV symptoms go away, or whatever XYZ symptoms go away, right? Just because symptoms go away doesn't mean that you've healed. The skin's a perfect example, right? Like the question I get all the time about acne and vitamin E. Matt, I took vitamin E based upon what I read in your work and your podcast and your guests, and I'm breaking out. What's the deal? The vitamin E caused the acne. No, you're making that association. The vitamin E didn't cause the acne. It was already there, right? It's like chemotherapy. You're just suppressing. So there's a difference between suppressing symptoms and actually truly healing and getting to the root. And we all know allopathic is just about squash the symptom, right? If the symptom's gone, it's all good. But who cares? I mean, now I have 5 more symptoms, and then now I have 10 more from that, and then it keeps compounding, right? That's that system. But then we get into the alternative health system, and it's the same thing. Because, from what I've been told, the medical medium is still recommending supplements that I speak against that are harming people, that are putting them further out of balance. And beyond that, because I'm not aware of what those are specifically, because I don't watch them that closely, I just see the crazy TikTok videos he puts out. But let's just focus purely on the celery juice piece. I've spoken a lot about NPK fertilizer. It's nitrogen, phosphate, potassium fertilizer, and the damage that causes to the human body. And so World War I, World War II, a lot of spent ammunition, a lot of materials that were too toxic to throw away ended up in our agricultural system. So our food has been weaponized. People say that off the cuff, food has been weaponized, right? Packaged food out of a box or can, right? It's weaponized. No, it's all the food, especially the organic vegetables, especially. Because conventional or organic, there's not a huge difference. The only difference is the N. It's a different form of nitrogen they use for the fertilizer. It's organic fertilizer, right? And they have organic pesticides and organic herbicides, right? And organic's just a word, right? Just like non-GMO certified. Just whatever. Who cares? Bottom line is this. That celery juice kills your pineal gland. Kills it. It's a sniper shot. Boom. It's not a bazooka. It's a .308 rifle sniper shot. Straight to the pineal. Gotcha. Now you're in the matrix. Just knock the main processor of the brain out. Ha, that's funny. Now you can't see where you're going at all. No intuition, right? And so that's where you fall for all these protocols and all these spinning your wheels and just doing all sorts of stuff that doesn't make sense. Right? People forget that our intuition is not just a thing outside of us. It's actually dependent upon the integrity of the pineal gland. And this NPK fertilizer specifically shuts down the main processor of the brain. It's called the pineal gland. And that's a big problem. Because you don't have an intuition, you're going in circles. And so this celery juice is just concentrated NPK. And when you ingest that, you're depleting your magnesium, you're depleting your copper, your iron overload gets worse, and your system is just going this direction where, yeah, you might see certain things get better, but you can make any change at all, and usually you'll see a change in your body for the better, right? But again, is it short term or is it long term? We're after long term results. And you're not going to get that on celery juice. I mean, unless you're growing it yourself in a greenhouse with reverse osmosis water that has the acid rain taken out, you're using indigenous microorganisms, you're using rock dust, you're using worm castings, right? And you're doing all of these things and you're not letting rain get on your soil because it's going to kill the microbes in the soil because it's acid rain, right? You've never had produce like that ever in your entire life, ever. We've never had real food, just what it is. So again, it's not an orthorexia thing. It's just being real. And it's very depressing. You know, it's like, I spiraled for a while after I learned that. I was like, wow, ready to give up. They got us. Game over. Well, no, not really. You know, I plan to kind of bust a move in the future with farming and actually doing it right. And, you know, we definitely have, you know, the tools. I really like, you know, Charles over at Crucial 4. I think he's doing it better than a lot of other people are. But celery juice is not the answer. Vegetable juice is not the answer. Green juice is not the answer, obviously. Right? There's not an alkalizing effect. There's not special minerals that he talks about called whatever in the celery juice. You know, these unknown, undiscovered mineral cell salts or whatever. People that talk about that are mineral deficient, right? Shilajit plus dairy is really the combo. Blows celery juice out of the water. And you'll feel it. You'll really feel it, especially if you stay on it for years. So yeah, you know, I went a little esoteric there, but I get really passionate because I got into health because of juicing. You know, I was green juicing 4 days a week. You know, I'd maybe take a day off once a week. I did that for years. I would do, you know, apple, celery, cucumber, burdock, kale, spinach, ginger, or I do lemon, habanero, ginger, apple juice. That was probably the healthier of the juices that I made. The takeaway here is fruit juice is infinitely better than vegetable juice because it's coming up through a tree. It's not celery, it's direct, right? So they're pouring on tap water, biosludge, right? If you've been to a wastewater treatment plant in high school, I took a environmental science, AP environmental science class, and on a field trip, they took us to the San Diego wastewater treatment plant. It smelled like poop, certain parts of it, because that's what they did there, right? They changed poop into municipal water, right? That's, it's not cool. That's a big reason why I moved up here to Idaho. It's to be on a well, because I don't want to drink, you know, recycled, you know, urine and feces. And of course they treat it and they use chlorine and hydrofluorosilicic acid and all these solvents and stuff. And I don't want to freak you guys out, you know, because you could filter the water and it's, you know, helpful. But that's why I talk about the frequency stuff. It's like the people that are urinating in the toilet and that's being recycled into the water that's going back in your body, there's a frequency aspect there. And, you gotta, that's an aspect to water quality for sure. Like the energetic imprint of water. And just imagine how all these people living, condensed apartments and stuff, and they're all stressed and they're peeing and then they're recycling that and then you're drinking it. So there's something to think about, just about water, because it's really important. And obviously you do your best. But anyway, let's see. Magnesium and sodium ratio, I read about it the other day. Do we first up our sodium and then after a while, a few months, add magnesium? Yes. I pretty much did them at the same time. You could do that. But for really sensitive people, yeah, you probably want to increase your sodium first and then increase your magnesium. Or if it's, like 3 magnesium pills a day, maybe, 200 milligrams of actual magnesium, which is generally what you'll get in a pill form, then that's probably fine. But just when we're talking about like high dose magnesium, for example, like floating in a sensory deprivation tank, I guess there's sulfate in there, but there's not chloride. They usually don't have chloride in there. So I think everyone should be salting their food with the white salt. I salt every single meal except for my steak. And yeah, I mean, some people even put salt in their coffee or salt in their orange juice. I think that's a little weird, but if you're really sensitive, you can try that out. How to recover after a cycle of antibiotics. Take a swig here. I would use spore-based probiotics and gelatin. It's either homemade gummies or bone broth. And pretty much just those two. Yeah. Salt with iodine. No. Non-iodized salt. I can grab the one that I use here. Let me see. So this is the one. It's just, it's cheap. If money's an issue, this one works. Just pickling and canning salt, Morton's. And, ingredients, salt. And you look in here, it's going to be white. So that's good to have. And then this one, if you can get it, the Icelandic flake salt from Crucial 4, that one's really good. And then I guess I could show you this since we're in show and tell mode. This is the BioOcean. So it comes like this, and you just pop out one of these, and yeah, you can see on the back, it goes through. Maybe I'll flip this around so you can read it. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. There's a lot of stuff in there, right? You have a little zinc, you have a little selenium, you have a little copper, good amount of potassium, good amount of magnesium, iodine, which everyone freaks out about, right? So there's a lot of stuff. And this is actually soothing on the throat too. So it's just, be careful you don't get glass in your mouth. So usually I'll use something on this end. So you can see I broke the vacuum. Well, I open one side. If I go like this, because this one's shut, it's not going to drain. So you have to go like this. That's it. It feels really good in my throat. And yeah, something to try. It's definitely an advanced way. You could just do salt, This is in liquid form, so it's going to be a little better. Any idea whenever the stream from hot showers gets me really nauseous, feeling faint? I've been wanting to go to a sauna, but I don't want to pass out in the middle of it. Do you have a shower filter is the number one question. And second question is, what shower filter do you have? I think I have like 15 left on my site. I'm just reselling the Sante one. And the discount codes apply. So if you have a discount code, you could save a bunch of money on it. And I'm still working on coming out with a Mitolife shower filter. It'll be unique. I think we're still about 2 to 3 months out on that because it's being built from scratch, and because of COVID 1984, everything's just slower. It sucks, but I'm trying to come out with that before the end of the summer. Yeah, so I'd say, what shower filter do you have? Upgrade, you know, if you have a shower filter. I mean, if it's just a small dinky one, especially with like magnesium balls or little ceramic balls, or you guys know the shower filter you buy at the health food store, that one sucks because it has different types of media in there that isn't doing anything. Like, it might help with one shower, but the second or third shower, it's not doing much. You really just want KDF. That's what you're looking for. And the size matters. You know, a little small size of your fist filter is not going to do as much as a bigger filter. So Sante is a company, Sante for Health. They have good shower filters. You know, they have like a dual KDF. Pristine sells it. That is likely the reason why you're getting nauseous in the shower. All right. Well, I think that's good. I got to record my my float podcast. Little finish off that episode, but great questions you guys asked. I always love doing this. I always say I want to try to do 2 a month, but it's just right now I'm getting ready to move. I'm moving next month, so been super busy just preparing, planning ahead podcast episodes and all that stuff. But as always, let me know what you want to see on here as far as videos. I think the one that went up today or yesterday was on the water routine with you know, my whole drinking water routine. I think I maxed out on the supplement cabinet, but maybe I could do one up here, my kitchen tincture area, because that's a whole nother thing. And a lot of these I could probably throw away that I don't use anymore, but a lot of them I do use. So yeah, maybe I'll do more like on the road videos too, I'm thinking. I want to do some airport videos, you know, what I do in the airport, what I do for snacks, what I do when I'm underslept. Yeah, stuff like that. I don't know if you guys would be interested in farm videos, like little things I do for my animals, which isn't too much. I'm not too advanced yet, but yeah, thank you guys. And I'll try to do some Instagram lives as well. Been slacking a little bit on that, but yeah, great questions. And any exciting announcements? Be 2 new products coming out. Underslept would be good. Okay, cool. I'll do that. Yeah, I'm coming out with a Whole Foods C and a magnesium product. Can't give any specifics on those, but because I take them myself, I'm like, why not just add them to the Mitolife brand? And as I mentioned, the grounding stuff, really, really excited about that. That will be out in about a week. And I look at the grounding sheet as like at home. You know, you could bring it with you traveling, but probably the no choice stuff, although it's expensive, would be more of a travel thing. Whereas for your bed that you sleep in most of the time, that's where you would use the fitted sheet. And if you want to stack that and sandwich yourself in between like the no choice cape or something like that, I'm actually planning on interviewing the Defender Shield people. They have like that's the phone case I use. They sell the EMF phone cases and earbuds, and they have Faraday. They have like a scarf. I think they have hats, beanies, and they have like a blanket that I'm trying to get to experiment with, like it basically blocks 5G. It's like a blanket. Because I'm always interested in like travel hacks. Like I get slammed when I go to California, and in my last trip for my older brother's birthday, I was really cognizant of the EMFs, and I felt so much better. You know, normally I'll feel a little bit like emotionally like ready to snap by the end of it. It could be a lot of factors, right? Family's always a challenge, but it's largely the EMFs for me, because you know I don't have huge exposure here. It's just what I'm generating with my stuff. for the most part, my antenna on the roof and stuff. But blocking it with the silver clothing, just game changer. I just can't emphasize that enough. I just felt so much calmer. It was just like that nervousness, like that jittery feeling, like emotionally, nervous system. That's all from the EMFs hitting your torso. So, and there's other companies, you could find, I would say just experiment with a silver torso blocking thing and you feel it. Definitely do. So yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, I was thinking of making more sauna videos, so I'll make some more things, maybe a gua sha one, because I just have public videos on gua sha, and I actually haven't done it in a while. I feel the difference. There was one day, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, I gua sha'd for like an hour straight in the sauna, and I got out, it's like, oh, I feel like I took like an internal bath. It was like that feeling. It was like better than how an enema feels. It's like you feel clear when you like scrape your pores. And again, I think people could take it a little too far, but especially just scraping like the neck, I mean, just gunk comes out. It's like and you could use a credit card. I mean, it's not ideal, right? It's plastic, but an old credit card would work. You don't need to like buy anything really. And you pretty much just use, you wipe off the sweat, you use coconut oil, and then you scrape. And I mean, it's like dark sludge that comes out of your pores. It's really gross. I get a lot of dead skin on the surface after sauna. Wow. Yeah. I'm reinvigorated with sauna use after listening to Morley with the iron thing, that you could get out some iron with sweating. I'm like, sold. That's amazing. I mean, again, if you get out some of that iron, everything gets better. Every aspect of your being improves. Iron causes fear, iron causes depression, iron causes anxiety, memory loss, fatigue, depression, liver issues, heart issues, reproductive issues, everything, digestive issues, right? In the intestinal cells, right? It accumulates in the liver, in the intestines, everywhere. And it, the enterocytes, the hepatocells, this iron accumulates in the areas where we need those cells to work. We need them to make energy. So awesome, gua sha. Okay, I'll do it. Well, thank you guys. Oh, these are all filters. I thought I could do like a funny one. Oh, there we go. That's a little creepy. Okay. Anyway, stop having fun here. Thank you guys for listening. This was a lot of fun. Great questions. I generally do them like the 3rd week of the month. Next month, I think I'm going to do it around the same time, like the 3rd week. And yeah, we will chat soon. Have a great day.